The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 5, Section 2, Interviews. First one, Miracles. The Memphis Commercial, 15 January 1894. Asked by the reporter for his impression, asked by the reporter for his impression of America, he said, I have a good impression of this country, especially of American women. I have specially remarked on the absence of poverty in America. The conversation forward turned into the subject of religion. Swami Vivekananda expressed the opinion that the World Parliament of Religion had been beneficial in that it had done much towards broadening ideas. What, asked the reporter, is the generally accepted view held by those of who your faith as to the fate after that of one holding the Christian religion? We believe that if he is a good man, he will be saved, even an atheist. If he is a good man, we believe must be saved. That is our religion. We believe all religions are good. Only those who hold them must not quarrel. Swami Vivekananda was questioned concerning the truthfulness of the marvelous story of performance of wonderful feats of conjuring, deviation, suspended animation, and the like in India. Vivekananda said, we do not believe in miracles at all, but that apparently strange things may be accomplished under the operation of the natural rules. There is a vast amount of literature in India on the subjects, and people there have made a study of these things. Though for example, thought reading and foretelling of events are successfully practiced by hot yogis. As to the leviation, I have never seen anyone overcome the gravitation and rise by will into the air, but I have seen many who were trying to do so. They read books published on the subject and spend years trying to accomplish the feat. Some of them, in their efforts, nearly starve themselves and become so thin that if one presses his finger upon the abdomen, he can actually feel the spine. Some of these hot yogis live to a great age. The subject of suspension animation. The subject of suspended animation was broached, and the Hindu monk told the commercial reporter that he himself had known a man who went into the sealed cave, which was then closed up with a trapdoor, and remained there for many years without food. There was a decided stir of interest among those who heard this assertion. Vivekananda entertained not the slightest doubt of the genuineness of this case. He says that in the case of the suspended animation, growth is for the time arrested. Growth is for the time arrested. He says the case of a man in India who was buried with the crop of barley raised over his grave and who was finally taken out still alive is perfectly well authenticized. He thinks the studies which enabled persons to accomplish the feat were suggested by the hibernation or hibernating animals. Vivekananda said that he had never seen the feat which some writers have claimed has been accomplished in India of throwing a rope into the air and thrower climbing up the rope and disappearing out of the sight in the distance height. A lady presents when the reporter was interviewing the monk said someone had asked her if he, Vivekanand, could perform wonderful tricks and if he had been buried alive as a part of his installation in the brotherhood. The answer to both questions was positively negative. What have those things to do with religion? He asked. Do they make a man purer? The Satan of your Bible is powerful, but differs from God is in not being pure. Speaking of the sect of Hatha Yoga, Vivekananda said, there was one thing, whether a coincident or not connected with the initiation of their disciples, which was suggestive of the one passage in the life of Christ. They make their disciples leave alone for just 40 days. Second, an Indian yogi in London. The Westminster Gazette, 23rd October 1895. Indian philosopher Indian philosophy has in recent years had a deep and growing fascination in for many minds. Indian philosophy has in recent years had a deep and growing fascination for many minds, though up to the present time its exponent in this country have been entirely Western in their thought and training, with the result that very little is really known of the deeper mysteries of the Vedan wisdom, and that only one, and that only by a select few. Not many have the courage or the intuition to seek in the heavy translation made greatly in the interests of philosophy for that sublime knowledge which they really reveal to an able exponent brought up in all the traditions of the East. It was therefore with interest and not without some curiosity, writes a correspondence, that I proceeded to interview an exponent entirely novel to Western people in the person of Swami Vivekananda. It was therefore with interest and not without some curiosity, writes a correspondent that I proceeded to interview an exponent entirely novel to Western people in the person of Swami Vivekananda, an actual Indian yogi who has boldly undertaken to visit the Western world to expound the traditional teaching which has been handed down by the ascetic and yogis through many ages, and who is pursuant of this object, delivered a lecture last night in the Prince Hall. The Swami Vivekananda is a striking figure with his turban or mitre shaped or mitria shaped black cloth cap, and his calm but kindly feature. On my inquiring as to the significance, if any, of his name, the Swami said, of the name by which I am now known, that is Swami Vivekananda, the first word is description of the sannyasi, or one who formally renounces the world, and the second is the title I assumed, as is customary with all sannyasins. On my renunciation of the world, it signifies literally the bliss of discrimination. And what induced you to forsake the ordinary course of the world? Swami, I asked. I had a deep interest in religion and philosophy from my childhood, he replied, and our books teach renunciation has the highest idea to which man can aspire. It only needed the meeting with great teacher like Ramakrishna Paramhans to kindle in me the final determination to follow the path he himself had trod, as in him I found my highest ideal realized. Then did he found a sect which you now represent? No, replied the Swami quickly. No, his whole life was spent in breaking down the barriers of sectarianism and dogma. He formed no sect, quite the reverse. He advocated and strove to establish absolute freedom of thoughts. He was a great yogi. Then you are connected with no society or sect in this country, neither theosophical or Christian scientist, nor any other? None whatsoever, said the Swami in a clear and impressive tone. His face lights up like that of a child, and it is so simple, straightforward, and honest. My teaching is my own interpretation of our ancient books, in the light which my master shed upon them. I claim no supernatural authority. Whatever in my teaching may appeal to the highest intelligence and be accepted by thinking men. The adoptive or the adoption of that will be my reward. All religions, he continued, have for their object the teaching either of devotion, knowledge, or yoga in the concerned form. Now, the philosophy of Vedanta is an abstract science which embraces all these methods, and this it is that I teach, leaving each one to apply it to his own concrete form. I refer each individual to his own experience, and where references is made of to the books, the latter are procurable and may be studied by each one for himself. Above all, I teach no authority proceeding from hidden beings speaking through visible agents any more than I claim learning from hidden books or manuscripts. I am the exponent of no occult societies, nor do I believe that good can come of such bodies. Truth stands on its own authority, and truth can bear the light of day. Then you do not propose to form any society, Swami? I suggested. None, no society whatever. I teach only the self hidden in the heart of every individual and common to all. A handful of strong men knowing that self and living in its light would revolutionize the world. Each today, even today, as has been the case by single strong man before each in his day. Have you just arrived from India? I inquired, for Swami is suggestive of Eastern sons. No, he replied. I represented the Hindu religion at the Parliament of Religion held in Chicago in 1893. Since then, I have been traveling and lecturing in the United States. The American people have proved most interesting audience and sympathetic friends, and my work there has so taken roots that I must shortly return to that country. And what is your attitude towards the Western religions, Swami? I propound a philosophy which can serve as a basis to every possible religious system in the world, and my attitude towards all them is one of the extreme sympathy. My teaching is antagonistic to none. I direct my attention to the individual and to make him strong, to teach him that he himself is divine, and I call upon men to take themselves conscious of the divinity within. That is really the idea, consciousness or non unconsciousness of their religion or every religion. And what shape will your activity take in this country? My hope is to imbue individuals with the teachings to which I have referred and to encourage them to express this to others in their own way. Let them modify them as they will, and I do not teach them as dogmas. Truth at length must inevitably prevail. The actual machinery through which I work in the hands of one or two friends. On October 22nd, they have arranged for me to deliver an address to the British audience at Prince Hall, Piccadilly at 8:30 p.m. The event is been advertised. The subject will be on the key of my philosophy, that is self-knowledge. Afterwards, I am prepared to follow any course that opens, to attend meetings in people's drawing room or elsewhere, to answer letters and discuss personally. In the mercenary age, in a mercenary age, I may venture to remark that none of my activities are undertaken for a pecuniary reward. I then took my leave from one of the most original of men that I have had the honor of meeting. I then took my leave from one of the most original of men that I have had the honor of meet. Third, India's mission. Sunday Times, London, 1896. English people are very acquainted with the fact that they send missionaries to India, coral strands. Indeed, so thoroughly do they obey the behest. Go you forth into all the world and preach the gospel, that none of the chief British sect are behindhand in obedience to call to spread Christ's teaching. People are not so well aware that India also sends missionaries to England. By accident, if the term may be allowed, I fell across the Swami Vivekananda in his temporary home at 63 State George Road. Swami Vivekananda and has George S.W. and as he did not object to discuss the nature of his work and visit to England, I sought him there and began our talk with an expression of surprise at his assent to my request. I got thoroughly used to the interviewer in America because it is not the fashion in my country. That is no reason why I should not use means existing in the country I visit. For the spreading what I desire to be known, there I was representative of Hindu religion at the World Parliament of Religion at Chicago in 1893. The Raja of Mysore and some other friends sent me there. I think I may lay claim to having that some success in America. I had many invitations to other great American cities besides Chicago. My visit was a very long one. Now, for very long one, for with the exception of the visit to England last summer. Repeated as you see this year. I remained about 3 years in America. The American civilization is, in my opinion, a very great one. I find the American mind peculiarly susceptible I find American mind peculiarly susceptible to new ideas. Nothing is rejected because it is new. It is examined on its own merits and stands or falls by this alone. Whereas in England, you mean to imply something. Yes, in England, civilization is older. It has gathered many accretions as the centuries have rolled on. In particular, you have many prejudices that need to be broken through, and whoever deals with you is ideas must lay this to his account. So they say, I gathered that you did not found anything like a church or a new religion in America. That is true. It is a contrary to our principles through multiple organizations, since in all conscience In all conscience, there are enough of them, and when organizations are created, they need individuals to look after them. Now, those who have made sannyas, that is renunciation of all worldly positive property and name, whose aim is to seek spiritual knowledge, cannot undertake this work, which is beside in other hands. Is your teaching a system of comparative religion? It might convey a more definite idea to call it the kernel of all forms of religion, stripping from them the non-essentials and laying stress on that which is really basis. I am a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans, a perfect sannyasi whose influence and ideas I fell under. This great sannyasin never assumed the negative and critical attitude towards other religions, but showed their positive side, how they could be carried into life and practiced. To fight, to assume the antagonistic attitude is the exact contrary of his teaching. which dwells on the truth that the world is moved by love. You know that the Hindu religion never persecutes. It is the land where all the sect may live in peace and amity. The Mohammedans The Mohammedans brought murder and slaughter in their train, but under their arrival, peace prevailed. Thus, the Jains, who do not believe in the God, who regard such belief as delusion, were tolerated and still are there today. India sets the example of regal strength, that is meekness, dash, plunk, fight. All these things are weakness. It sounds like it sounds very like Tolstoy's Tolstoy's doctrine. It may be not, it may be for individuals, though personally I doubt it. But how will it answer for nations? Admirably for some, admirably for them also. It was India's karma, her fate to be conquered, and in her turn to conquer her conqueror. She has already done so with her Mohammedan visitors. Educated Mohammedans are Sufis, scarcely to be distinguished from Hindus. Hindus thought has permeated their civilization. They assumed the position of learners. The great Akbar, the Mughal emperor, was but practically a Hindu, and England will be conquered in her turn. Today she has the sword, but it is worse than useless. But it is worse than useless in the world of idea. You know that what Scoffinier said to Indian thoughts. He foretold that its influence would be and momentous in Europe, and when it became well known as the revival of Greek and Latin culture after the Dark Ages. Excuse me saying that there do not seem many signs of it just now. Perhaps not, said the Swami gravely. I dare say a good many people saw no sign of the old Riensis and did not know it was there, even after it had come. But there is a great movement which can be discerned by those who know the signs of the times. Science of the times. Oriental researches has of recent years made great progress. At present, it is in the hands of scholars and it seems dry and heavy in the work they have achieved. But gradually, the light of comprehension will break, and India is to be the great conqueror of the future. Yet she does not send out many missionaries to preach her ideas. I presume she will wait until the world comes to her feet. India was once a great missionary power. Hundreds of years before England was converted to Christianity, Buddha sent our missionaries to convert the world of Asia to his doctrine. The world of thought is been converted. We are only at the beginning as yet. The number of those who decline to adopt any special form of religion is greatly increasing, and this movement is among the educated classes. In the recent American census, a large number of persons declined to class themselves as belonging to any form of religion. All religions are different expressions. All religions are different expressions of the same truth. All march on or die out. They are radii of the same truth. The expression that variety of mind requires. Now we are getting near it. What is that central truth? The divine within. Every ever every being, however regretted, the divine within every being, however regraded, is the expression of the divine. The divinity becomes covered, hidden from view. I call to mind an incident of Indian mutiny. A Swami who for years had fulfilled the vow of eternal silence was stabbed by a Mohammedan. They dragged the murderer down his victim and cried out, "Speak the word, Swami, and he shall die." After many years of silence, he broke it to say with his last breath, "My children, you are all mistaken. That man is God Himself. The great lesson is that unity is behind all. Call it God, love, Spirit, Allah, Jehovah. It is the same unity that animates all life from lowest animal to the noblest man. Picture to yourself an ocean, icebound, pierced with many different holes. Each of these is a soul, a man, emancipated according to his degree of intelligence, essaying to break through the ice. I think I see one difference between the wisdom of the East and that of the West. You aim at proceeding very perfect individuals by sannyas concentration, and so forth. Now, the ideal of the West seems to be perfecting of the social state. So and so so we work at political and social questions since we think that the per- permanence permanence of our civilization depends upon the well-being of the people. But the basis of all systems, social and political, said the Swami with great earnestness, rest upon the goodness of men. No nation is great or good because parliament enact this or that, but because its men are great and good. I have visited China, which had the most admirable organization of the nations. Yet today China is like a disorganized mob because her men are not equal to the system contrived in the olden days. Religion goes to the root of the matter. If it is right, all is right. It sounds just a little vague and remote from practical life that the divine is within everything but covered. One cannot be looking for it all the time. People often work for a same end but fail to recognize the fact. One must admit that government politics are government politics are phases not final in any way. There is a goal beyond them where law is not needed. And by the way, the very word sannyasin means the outlaw. One might say divine is nihilist, but that miscomprehension pursues those that use such a word. All great masters teach the same thing. Christ saw that the basis is not law, that morality and purity are the only strength. As for your system, or as for your statement that the East aims at higher self development and the West at the perfecting of the social state, you do not, course, forget that there is an apparent self or a real self. The inference, of course, being that we work for an apparent, you are you for the real. The mind works through the various stages to attain its fuller development. First, it lays hold of the concentration or concrete. First, it lays hold of the concrete and only gradually deals with the abstraction. Look to how the great how the idea of the universal brotherhood is reached. First, it is grasped as brotherhood within the sect, hard, narrow, and exclusive. Step by step, we reach broad generalization and the world of abstract ideas. So, you think that those sects of which we English are so fond will die out. You know what the Frenchman said? England, the land of thousand sects, and but one source. I am sure that they are bound to disappear. Their existence is founded on non essentials. The essential part of them will remain and be built up into another edifice. You know the old saying that it is good to be born in the church but not to die in it. Perhaps you will say how your work is progressing in England. Slowly, for the reason I have already named. When you deal with roots and foundations, all real progress must be slow. Of course, I need not say that these ideas are bound to spread by one means or another, and to many of us, the right moment for their dissemination seems now to have come. Then I listed to an explanation of how the work is carried on. Like many an old doctrine, this new one is offered without money, without price, depending entirely upon the voluntary efforts of those who embrace it. The Swami is a picturesque figure in his eastern dress. His simple and cordial manner, savoring of anything but the popular idea of ascetic, asceticism, and unusual command of English and great conversational power add not a little to an interesting personality. His vow of sannyasi implies renunciation of position, property, and name, as well as the persistent search for spiritual knowledge.